Why hello everyone, this is Etho. I have another tutorial for you guys. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to build a hostile mob system, very similar to the one I have here. The only difference is we're not going to have this outside ring that goes all the way around. And I already have put out a tutorial on how to build a mob system. This is sort of a revision to it. Since I put out that tutorial, I've discovered new things and have learned many new things and changed my opinion on certain things, so I want to revise that. It's still a good tutorial and it's still worth looking at, but I don't want you guys wasting any more time than you need to on building a hostile mob system, and so that's kind of why I'm putting out this tutorial, and it has many improvements to it as well. This hostile mob system is very unique from other systems because it allows you to transport the mobs to you instead of you having to go down to your mob system to collect the item drops. This is very convenient. For example, I'm in my house right now and I can be walking around doing things, and then every 5 minutes I can just come to this collection point to pick up the items that come from my mobs. As you can see, are starting to pour in now. Most mob systems are very large and hideous, and because of this, people don't want to build them near their bases. So when people want to pick up items from their mob system, they'll usually just go AFK at the collection points, because they don't want to keep traveling back and forth between their base and the mob system to pick up drops every 5 minutes before they despawn. In my opinion, if you need to stand AFK in your mob system for long periods of time, you may as well save yourself some time and just embed it in the resources, because you're not playing the game if you're doing this. With my mob system, however, it's hidden very nicely underground. It's small, quick and easy to build, and you can even build it directly into your base, as I have done here, or near it, whichever you choose. Some other advantages include you can handle the mobs live instead of killing them if you want, and add different options in. So for example, if you wanted to build a mob arena or a shooting range or a record studio, you could easily do that with this system. Another cool thing about this system, it's small, it's only 30 by 30, and you can build it as soon as you start a world pretty much. You just need to collect some wood for your basic tools and for the signs. So that's cool. This is about the average rates. It's usually a little bit quicker for you to collect items. And every so often there's gaps in the system. Alright, we're going to begin building our mob system very shortly here, but before we do, I just want to give you a little bit of a basic education on how mob systems work. They're very complicated and they're difficult to understand, but I'll try my best to explain this. And obviously there's many complications in the way mob spawning works, but in general you don't need to worry about that unless you're trying to make like the most efficient mob system in the world. So the four main keys that determine the efficiency of a mob system are number 1, the total area outside of your trap that hostile mobs can spawn at, and number 2, the total area inside of your trap that hostile mobs can spawn at. So to explain that a little better, I have this other chart here. The mob system we're going to build has a surface area of 600 blocks that hostile mobs can spawn in. And so let's say outside of our mob trap, like in caves, dark unlit caves, let's say there's 5,400 blocks that mobs can spawn in. That means there's about a 10% chance of a mob spawning in on our spawning pads and a 90% chance that they'll spawn outside, such as in a cave system. So, in order to make our mob system work better, we can either increase this number, make our mob system bigger so that it has more surface area for mobs to spawn on, or we can decrease this number and decrease the amount of area outside of our trap that mobs can spawn in. And we can do this, for example, by lighting up cave systems. And that's actually a really quick way of increasing this percentage and decreasing this percentage, because placing one torch can easily light up 10, 20 blocks so that mobs can't spawn in them anymore. And in comparison, increasing our mob system 10 or 20 blocks would take much longer. And also it creates other problems as well. So even though the mob system we're about to build is relatively small, it's only 30 by 30 and 600 blocks that mobs can spawn on, this doesn't really matter as long as we can do a relatively good job lighting up the cave systems near our mob system. So if we can light them up completely, this number becomes 0 and our mob system becomes 100% efficient pretty much. As in, like, all the mobs will spawn in our mob system instead of outside of it. Let's get back to this. Number 3, the length of time it takes your system to collect and kill mobs. Now this is the main flaw with my mob system. It takes a bit of time to kill the mobs because it has to transport them all up a minimum 24 block mob evader, 24 block high. But that is the price of convenience. Number 4, the number of mobs lost inside your trap from despawning and or getting stuck. My mob system is very good for this because it is small. Chances of a mob despawning in it is very low. And the way despawning works, actually, let me explain this using another chart. This chart here was kindly provided to the Minecraft community by a guy that goes by the name XFS. And assuming this black dot is our player in the center here, we can see that there's 24 blocks away from our player, there's a ring. Inside this 24 block radius sphere, no mobs can spawn. So 24 blocks from our player, no mobs can spawn. 32 blocks away from our player, there's another ring, and inside this sphere, no mobs can despawn. And then 128 blocks from our player, there's another ring, and inside this sphere, as soon as a mob leaves this sphere, they pretty much instantly despawn. That's what all this blue is about. And then finally, we can see 144 blocks from our player in a square. There's another noticeable pattern here. Mobs can spawn 144 blocks from our player, but they pretty much instantly despawn if they're outside of this 128 block radius sphere. It's kind of complicated, yes, I know. Okay, so these are the important ones, though, the 24 and the 32. We need to build our spawning pads 24 blocks below our player so that mobs will spawn on the spawning pads. And also, if our mobs are outside of this 32 block radius sphere for about 30 seconds, there's a chance they will despawn. Okay? And that's goes along with number 4 here. Alright, so hopefully I explained that well enough. This thing here is a chart that shows what our mob system looks like. Each of these pixels represents a block in the world. So our mob system is made up of these 6x6 spawning pads. There's 16 of them in total. And you can see they're connected here. These purple ones represent half slabs. I'll talk about that more later. These blue pixels are water source blocks. This green thing in the center is our 4-way mob evader. And these brown blocks in the center here are signs, and these yellowish ones just represent a drop. Actually, these 6 pixels here, these 6 blocks, there's a drop below them. We'll get more into that later. So if you want a quick reference chart, this is a good image for you. Okay, let's begin building our mob system. I think I covered everything I wanted to here. One thing I forgot to mention, you might want to build your mob system near lots of water. The reason for that is because mobs can't spawn on water, and at nighttime, the amount of area mobs can spawn on is likely to greatly increase, because not only can mobs spawn in your cave systems, but they can also spawn on the surface of your world at night. And so if there's no water around you, that means they can spawn in a 288 times 288 area, that giant square around your player that we looked at. And that's equivalent to 82,944 blocks if there's no water that we would need to light up. That is not an easy task at all. So the more water you have, the less torches you need to place on your surface if you want your hostile mob system to work at nighttime. If you're fine with it just working during the day, then you don't need to worry about it. Alright, we should be ready to start building our mob system now. Some tools you're going to want, obviously some picks, shovels. You'll need lots of wood for making more tools and for making lots of signs. You might want some ladders so you can climb out. Torches are good. You'll need 2 buckets at least with water. And if you have it, I recommend using TNT to speed up the whole digging out the mob system. And I think that's all you need. I've decided to place it just over here in this open area. So the first thing we need to do is start digging down our mob evader. We need to dig down 24 blocks, so an easy way to figure that out is to press F3 to bring up this chart. Look at our Y coordinate. It says 65, so to dig down 24 blocks will take us to 41. And that's when we stop. Okay, so I'm going to start digging a 2x2 hole, 24 blocks down, and we went through our first shovel. I'm not going to be showing you the whole, like all the details of building this mob system. If you want more detail, look at my previous tutorials. They will be linked in the description. Found a cave system. I'm just going to block that off for now. I will have to explore that later. Yeah, so this mob system is very small. It should be pretty quick to build. I figured out you need to actually dig out about 2,500 blocks minimum. And if you're using iron picks, you can actually do that in under 20 minutes at the minimum. But it's likely to take you longer. 44, so we gotta go down to 41. Alright. Oh, we have a cave system. Okay, and then we start digging out. This is our center point here. I'm going to dig down 1 block more to mark it. And then we have to dig out 14 blocks in each direction outward. So 14 blocks this way, this way, this way, and this way, to make our 30 by 30 area with this as the center. And we only need to we only need to dig out 2 high, but obviously it's more comfortable if you dig out 3 because then you can jump around and stuff. But I'll leave it up to you. Making it 3 high makes a lot more work because it's a lot more blocks to clear out. If you're just starting out in the world, you'll need to use picks for this, but if you're already developed, you can use TNT, which is what I'm going to be doing to speed it up for me. And if you want, like I said, if you want more detail of me clearing out this area, you can watch my previous mob system where it's all shown on camera. I just wanted to mention, you know, when you guys are mining out your spawning pads, try to keep it fun. Minecraft's a game after all, and if you're not having fun, you shouldn't be playing, right? I like to have fun. Woohoo! Makes the game so much more enjoyable. Alright, I'm going to finish this up. Well, let's clear a little bit more land, shall we? Found a cave. And one more. Okay, so I'm pretty close to done now, just a little bit more work. Alright, so I finished clearing out the main area here. It didn't take me too long using the TNT, and I doubt it'll take you very long if you use picks either, especially if you make iron picks or diamond picks. Yeah, it's a 30 by 30 room. The center is where we came down, right here. And so each of these pads here are 14 by 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Right? So, and then if you go out 1, that's 15. So each of the quarters is 15 by 15 to make the 30 by 30. I started digging some of the trenches for our water canals. For the middle ones, you go up to the wall but leave 2 blocks. I just have these here to make it climbing up easier. But yeah, go up to the wall with 2 blocks still from the wall for all 4 of these. And then what we're going to do, oh yeah, another thing. You can see I ran into some cave systems, like in the roof. I also ran into some underneath our spawning pads. what you're going to need to do is light these up, especially any above your spawning pads, because they will have the most effect. Light them up and then just seal off, you know, the roof, so that none of the light from the lit up tunnels will reach your spawning pads and mess things up. Okay, so once you get to this stage, you're going to start splitting up these pads into, each of these pads gets split up into 4 6x6 sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One, two, three, four, five, 6. So this is now a 6x6 pad. You make 4 of these for each corner, so that there'll be 16 total. And you can refer to that blueprint I showed you earlier. And so that's what I'm going to do. If you do run into like caves and stuff, and they make it difficult to build your mob system, just cover them up and then explore them later, and it should work out fine. I have finished digging out the trenches. They're 2 deep, and now we have 16 of these 6x6 spawning pads throughout our mob system here. And as you can see, these trenches in the middle, they're 2 blocks from the wall, and the other ones are 1 block. And that's important so that the water currents meet up properly. You're going to need to put water at each of these ends for all of these ends. So you can see I have water at all these ends. You don't need to have this barrier, I just have that set so that you can see where the source blocks are. And you would just keep on going all the way around. One thing I wanted to point out, just in case you were wondering, right now our Y coordinate is at 41, so on top of these spawning pads is 24 blocks below the surface, and in the trenches it's 26 blocks below the surface. Okay, and so the other thing, again I recommend using the blueprint that I showed you before. You dig down at the corners like this 2x3 section, you dig down 1 block. At all 4 corners, you do this. And in the blueprint, it's underneath the yellow, brown, and blue pixels. And right here at our mob evader, 2 blocks from our center point here, you dig down for all 4 sides. 1, 2, dig down. Okay. Now, once you do that, you can start placing your signs. Again, you will need a lot of these. And you place them in the center, 1 block up on both sides. And you do that for all these dug down sections. So that's what I'm going to do now. I have all our signs in place now, so next I'm going to place my stairs. You can also use half slabs, and you want to place these so that they bring you towards our center point here, the 4-way mob evader. And in the blueprints, at the yellow, brown, blue pixels, the cluster, you would place the stairs underneath the blue pixels, the water. And above all of these stairs, you're going to need to place 2 water sources. Just going to borrow these. And the point of these stairs is it creates no dead zones in the water stream, so the mobs are always being pulled towards the mob evader in the center without any dry dead spots. Okay, I'm going to finish placing the stairs. Alright, that's all of them. So we have our signs in place, our stairs in place, most of our water is in place. We just need to place the ones above our stairs yet. But before we do that, I'm going to build the 4-way mob evader. I'm not going to show you how to do that in this video. I do have a tutorial on how to build a 4-way mob evader in detail, and I encourage you to watch that if you need it, which you probably will. The link is in the description, 4-way mob evader, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm in the middle of building the 4-way mob evader at the moment, and I just want to show you the method I'm using to do this. I've got a temporary infinite water stream set up here and 8 buckets, and I'm just doing the solid water source method. And so you gotta place 4 water sources at every level here, and that's so mobs can easily swim up without having a downward flowing water. And you gotta go all the way up. Okay, so I got the water all the way to the top now. This is solid water source blocks all the way through. I'm going to place alternating signs halfway through this mob evader so that the mobs don't drown on their way up. And I'm at 65 Y coordinate. I think I'm going to place it around 12 blocks down, so I think that's about 53. Doesn't have to be exact. And you guys probably can't see. Actually, I can't even see. Oops. Yeah, it's pitch black in here. Okay, so now when hostile mobs swim up, including the spiders, they will be able to breathe for a second, so they won't die on their way up. The mob evader is pretty much done here. Again, check out the tutorial on this if you want more detail. And I'm just going to place my water for it. Okay. The mob evader is finished. One thing I wanted to comment about though is you don't want to make the mob evader any longer than it needs to be. So we're 24 blocks below the surface. If you attempt to go all the way down to bedrock and make the mob evader like 40 blocks or bigger, it's going to really affect your mob trap. It might not even work because it affects rules number 3 and 4 that we considered before. Number 3 increases the amount of time it takes your mobs to reach your killing area, so that lowers efficiency. And number 4, it takes the mobs a much longer time to come within 32 blocks of your player. So there's an increased chance that they're going to despawn on their way up your mob evader if it's too big. So keep it 24 blocks, no shorter and no longer, and you should be good. Okay, so this is done. We got everything else pretty much set up. I'm going to start placing my water streams. You place these above the stairs or half blocks. 2 each. And there's one more thing I wanted to comment about. If you're in a dry area, like there's not much for ocean around you, there's a chance squid might spawn in your system and then clog up at the center point here. If that's something that concerns you, one thing you might try, I don't know how well this would work, but once you got your water placed here, dig down 2 blocks there and here in your 4-way mob evader. Squids are 1 by 1, so they'll be able to fall down here and they won't get in the way of your hostile mobs because squids can't swim up and hostile mobs won't fall down the holes here because they always try to swim up. So that's just one suggestion you can try. So let's finish placing the water. It's good to use lots of buckets, it'll speed things up. Oops. Above all the stairs. So yeah, this is a good project if you're just starting a world, because you'll get lots of cobblestone digging this thing out. If you make it too high, you'll get about 2,500 cobblestone, which you can use on other projects then, or if you make it 3 high, you'll get about 3,500 cobblestone. And you'll also get about a stack of iron and a bunch of coal, so you should be set. Okay, I think that might be all. Yep. Okay, so the final thing we need to do is remove our barriers here. I can't quite remember if there's any problems with the waters meeting. Oh yeah. Just in the corners you're going to have trouble with this dry spot here. You can fix this by... Nope. Just place a block down. Okay, well it's a bit tricky to fix. Place a block here and place water here so it falls down on top of the dry spot, and then when you remove it, water will stay there. Water's a little bit strange like that. And so water comes together and it keeps pulling you up the stairs and you go towards the mob evader. These water sources are the same distance apart, so they meet up nicely here in the center. So just the corners are where you gotta be careful. And when you're making your mob system, be careful that if you're not playing on peaceful, there's a good chance mobs will spawn in here while you're making it. So make sure you got plenty of torches around so that creepers don't get a jump on you. And once it's all done, you'll need to remove all the torches. If you have infinite springs around, you're going to have to get rid of these. And also, if you have any crafting tables, excuse me, or chests, take your items to your base and then remove those so they're not in the way. As you saw at the beginning of this video, in my mob system, I had a bunch of redstone torches. Redstone torches are good for lighting up a mob system because they emit light at a level of 7, which is still below the maximum that hostile mobs can spawn, so you can safely place redstone torches around without interfering with mob spawning. But make sure you don't place them on top of your spawning pads. You'll want to place them on the sides, because every one you place on top your spawning pads removes one possible block where hostile mobs can spawn. Okay, our water systems are all finished. Our mob system is complete. So you'd remove all the torches down here, and it will start working. Alright, the mob system's up and working. It'll probably take you at least 2 hours to complete it. But as you can see, it's not working very well. There's only one more mob coming up, and then I don't see any more. So, as we discussed before, the reason for that is because you need to light up the cave systems near here. We found a bunch while we were mining out our spawning pads even, so I need to light all those up. And by pressing F3, you can look around and actually see where the hostile mobs are. There's a bunch down there at bedrock, and a bunch over here. They're kind of all around, not in our trap. So we can use F3 to locate mobs in tunnels and find tunnels that way so that we can light them up. There's another cool trick that many are familiar with. If you line yourself just outside of these 3 blocks, so that you're as close to this corner as you can be, place gravel, and then you can actually see through the ground and look at all and find tunnels that aren't lit up this way. And as you can see, all around me are tunnels that aren't lit up that hostile mobs can spawn in. So in order for this trap to work well, I need to light these all up. And you might actually want to do this before you start building your trap. Certain areas have less tunnels than other areas, so you might save yourself some time by finding an area that has as few tunnels as possible. So how should you go about lighting up the caves to get your mob system working better? Well, you should start with the caves closest to your mob system and then kind of continue to work your way out, ideally. And same if you plan on lighting up the surface of your world, although I don't really recommend that because it takes a long time, usually. But if you do that, start at the center and kind of work your way out. How much area do you need to light up for it to work perfect? Well, assuming your player is at the very center of the mob evader here, you'll need to light up 144 blocks to the right, down, left, and up. So that's a big square of like 288 by 288 all around your mob system. But that's only if your player is stationary in the center. If you want it to work perfectly, you actually need to, let's use this as an example. This square is 288 by 288 All the white area is area where mobs could spawn around your player, and your player is this black dot in the center. If your player is moving around, let's say you're walking towards your mob system. If you want it to start working as soon as you come in range of it, you actually need to light up 288 blocks away from the mob system. Okay? And since our mob system is 30 by 30, that works out to needing to light up about a total area of about 592 by 592 for it to work perfect. And you will probably never do that legitimately. So don't worry about that though, because as soon as you start lighting up caves, you'll notice a huge difference in the amount of mobs you're getting. And if, assuming this was all dry land, no water around, if you were to light up the surface of a 592 by 592 area, that's 350,464 blocks. So pretty much crazy if you attempt to do that, so don't. Okay. This is the last part of our tutorial. I'm finally going to explain to you what those purple pixels in our blueprint represent. They are locations where you can place half slabs. And this is an optional thing you might want to do. What this does is it prevents spiders from being able to spawn in your system. So if you don't want spiders spawning in your system, then you just have to place half slabs where all those purple pixels are. And this might be something you want to do because really spiders only drop the string, and it's not very useful for anything except for bows, fishing rods, and you can make cloth out of it, but really you don't need much of it. And so this is a trick figured out by a smart guy. I think his name is Tarown1048. He figured out, let's say the game decides to spawn a mob on this gravel. So it's going to check for a hostile mob, tall mob, it's going to check 2 squares above the gravel. If they're clear, then it'll spawn a tall mob. But what this Tarown guy figured out is for spiders, it checks a 3 by 3 area above the selected spot, and if any of those blocks have a solid block in them, it won't be able to spawn a spider. And so that's what these half slabs are doing. So say the game picks this block right here, a 3 by 3 area around it, and you can see the half slab is in the way, so a spider can't spawn there. So the mob spawning will be aborted. And the thing about half slabs is no mobs can spawn on them, so you don't have to worry about a spider spawning on this block. Now the only issue with doing this though is it decreases the number of blocks where mobs can spawn in your system. In total there's going to be 72 of these half slabs, so it'll lower the efficiency of your mob system by about 88%. Or to 88%, I mean, from 100. So it's a little bit of an impact, but you know, if you get rid of the spiders, you don't have to worry about separating them or killing them, and it can be a nice convenience. Always remember these 2 blocks in the middle canals. That's the end of the tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did like it, please remember to leave a like for the video. And if you ever come across anyone, whether on the forums or in SMP, that are wondering how to make a hostile mob system, I do hope you recommend this video to them. And yes, it is a long video. There was a lot of information to cover. but I did the best I could to keep it as compact as possible. But it is a very long video. Alright, well anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.